Chiang Kai-shek appointed Chen Lifu a top advisor.
I organized and modernized the party. We made it impossible for the communists to operate. I used American techniques. They used Soviet techniques.
Vast security organizations were set up. A top priority was to prevent renewed communist growth in the cities where remnants of the party had gone underground. Shen Zui worked for the security police.
We knew they were communists by their speeches, their posters, or the articles they wrote. Or if we searched their homes, we'd find communist papers. That was the correct way. But if we had doubts, we'd say, better to kill an innocent one by mistake rather than let a bad one go. After all, they were fighting the nationalists for power.
In spite of the security police, the communists began to rebuild support in cities where working conditions were often brutal. In factories, child labor was common. In silk production, very young children worked plucking cocoons from boiling water.
I came to Shanghai when I was 12. We were so miserable. You had to work 17 hours a day. Later, a progressive worker in the factory told us that people were not born to be poor. One was poor because of the exploitation by others. There is exploitation by the capitalist on one hand, and exploitation by the labor contractor on the other. You do the work, and he takes the money. I had no idea what revolution meant. All I thought was that the worker made sense, and that he cared about us poor people. Well, he said, there is a country where there is no oppression and no exploitation, where everybody has a job and food. All we dreamed of then was of having food. So when we heard of this country, we wondered where it was. If only our country could be like that. That's what we hoped for. So we liked to listen to him, and we felt we could do whatever he told us. We would follow him, even if we had to risk our lives. What country was that? He wouldn't tell us which country it was. It wasn't until later we knew that what he referred to was the Soviet Union.
Chinese communist leaders believed that the revolution would be led, as Marx had written, by workers in the cities. But a small group in the party believed the key to revolution lay in the countryside, where most of China's people lived. This renegade group was based in Jiangxi province. It was led by Mao Zedong. Mao came from a prosperous peasant family. He was a founding member of the Communist Party. He had worked with the nationalists at the military academy in Canton, training students to organize peasants. After Chiang Kai-shek's purge, Mao returned to the countryside. By 1927, he and a small group were organizing peasants in Jiangxi province. Conditions made the area a fertile ground for communist activities. In South China, there were huge gaps between rich and poor. Rents were high, and taxes were often collected decades in advance. Landlords were called the masters of the earth.
One of the 4 tyrant landlords, by the name of Zhou, came to our house and saw my 15-year-old sister and took her to be his wife. He not only wanted to take my sister, he also wanted me to be his maid. I was only 7. My father refused, so he demanded 1,000 silver dollars to buy a maid instead. My father didn't know what to do. Rather than let me be a maid, my father sold me as a child bride.
People told me if I joined the revolution, I would have my freedom. I could choose who I wanted to marry. If I didn't join, I'd have to marry this man who was over 30. So I thought if revolution could save me from this, I would join.
The communists organized peasant associations and began social reforms. Their actions unleashed pent-up hatred of local landlords, and violent class struggles soon erupted.
We smashed the landlord's opium pipes and took away his grain and clothes. He started looking for his money. The landlord wasn't home. His wife was hiding in the attic where rice straw was stored. We found her. We questioned her for several days, and then we killed her. We gave the grain to those who had nothing to eat. Some got about 50 pounds, some got 100. We gave the clothes to those who just didn't have any, so the poor were really eager to join us.
By 1930, the communists had set up a government in Jiangxi. Mao had joined forces with Zhu De, another veteran revolutionary. Their men formed the Red Army, which Liu Hanshao joined.
I often saw Chairman Mao. He was tall and thin. When he went out, he rode a white horse. We didn't have cars then. When he went to work, he would be followed by 8 security guards, 3 to carry lanterns and 2 to carry his lunchbox. He wouldn't eat in someone's home. He took his meals wherever he went. Sometimes when there was a meeting, he would stand on a mound and shout slogans. He would shout, "Advance to Nanjing! Advance to Nanking! Take Chiang Kai-shek alive!"
Although the communist area was relatively small, many nationalists were frightened by the violent events there. Chiang Kai-shek was concerned. The people under attack, the middle and upper classes, were the base of his support. He launched a series of military campaigns in Jiangxi. They were defeated.
Our main forces would lure their troops, lure them into the mountains, like we did in the battle at Longgang. We would lure them in and then pull back. This is called pulling back your fist before you strike. It was like drawing them into a bag. And suddenly we'd surround them and wipe them out. Understand? We'd lure the enemy deep, deep into the Soviet area, and then suddenly surround them. We wiped out their 18th Division this way. All 9,000 of them, from the commander down to the cooks. Not one escaped. This is called mobile or guerrilla warfare.
Zhang's forces were defeated by these guerrilla tactics 4 times, but he continued to attack. In 1934, he launched an ideological offensive called the New Life Movement. a mixture of traditional Confucian values and European fascism. He hoped to create a disciplined and orderly society by reforming social behavior. People were instructed to button their clothes, stand straight, and not to eat noisily. The movement only reached a small section of the middle class and failed to solve the peasants' problems. But Jiang's fifth military campaign was a success. In an all-out effort, Jiang had gathered nearly 1 million soldiers and all the military machinery he could muster, and he changed tactics.